Tom was just a normal young man. He lived in a small town, worked in a garden center, and liked quiet things, planting flowers, fixing bikes, watching the stars at night. He didn't think he was special. In fact, most days, Tom felt invisible. He had no big dreams, no fancy education, and no real family left. One night, everything changed. It was just after sunset. The sky was purple, the air was calm, and Tom was walking home after watering plants at the garden shop. He took the same path he always did, across the field, near the forest, then up the small hill behind his house. But tonight, something strange happened. The wind stopped, the crickets went silent. Then the sky above him turned white, not just bright. Tom stood quietly inside a shining chamber that seemed perfect to be real. The walls were silver and smooth, glowing gently. Strange plants hung in corners, and the air smelled clean, like fresh rain. The tall alien women watched him closely. They stood in a half circle around him, dressed in long robes with colors like gold, silver, and deep blue. One of them stepped forward. She was older than the others, with calm eyes and silver markings on her skin. Her name was Reva. "You are safe," she said, her voice soft and clear, helped by a small translator device near Tom's ear. "You were brought here because the stars chose you?" Tom didn't understand. "Stars choose me. Why me? I'm just a gardener." Reva looked at the others, then back at Tom. "You are more than what you believe. Your DNA, your emotions, your soul, they match something ancient in our records. Something important." Tom's head felt heavy. None of this made sense. "What do you want from me?" Reva raised her hand. The room changed around them. The walls turned into giant screens, showing images, drawings of a human man with a mark on his shoulder. That same mark was on Tom's shoulder. He had it since birth, but never knew what it meant. "Our world is fading," Reva said. "Our people are strong, wise, and peaceful. But for generations, we have been unable to create life. We've searched it as checked." Tom sat high in the grand arena, unsure how to feel. All around him were cheers, music, and colors from worlds he had never known. Flags from different alien houses waved in the wind. The arena was built in the sky itself, floating above a sea of glowing clouds. He wasn't a ruler. He wasn't a soldier. But here, he was the center of everything. Below, hundreds of alien women stood tall. Each had come from faraway planets, bringing their culture, their pride, and their hope. Each one had chosen to enter the trial of hearts, an ancient tradition of Reva's people. They were not here to fight with weapons. These trials were about wisdom, courage, compassion, and the ability to connect with a human heart. Tom's heart. Reva stood beside Tom's seat, watching silently. "You still have time to stop this," Tom whispered. Reva smiled gently. "They do not want to own you. They want to earn your trust. You will choose. That is your right." Tom looked again. Some women wore warrior armor, others robes, others simple tunics. Some held strange instruments, others tools, or gifts from their homeworlds. This was not a game for them. The tournament continued day by day. Tom sat quietly in his seat, watching each trial with growing curiosity. At first, he thought it was all too strange, too big. But now, something inside him had started to change. He no longer felt like a prisoner or a stranger. He felt seen. The trials were different each time. One day it was the trial of the garden, where the contestants had to grow a living space using only natural materials and emotion-guided seeds. Another day, it was the trial of memory, where they were asked to step into Tom's past and understand his world through recreated moments. From Earth, some did well, some tried too hard, but a few touched something deeper. One of them was Mira, the quiet healer with gentle eyes. She never forced anything. During the trial of memory, she chose to walk through a moment Tom hadn't spoken about, the day he lost his mother. She didn't speak much. She just sat beside the memory, in silence, showing understanding without pity. Tom felt her presence like warmth in a cold place. Later, when he asked her why she chose that memory, she said softly, "Because pain is part of who we are." and love grows through it. Another was Kale, the inventor with sharp words but a deep mind. During the trial of curiosity, she built a small earth machine from memory alone, a coffee maker. But then she did more. She modified it using alien parts and made a drink Tom said reminded him of home. You remember that taste? He asked. Kale nodded, wiping her hands. You talked about it once. I listened. Tom smiled for the first time in days. But not everyone impressed him. Zira, the tall commander from a warrior clan, continued to treat the trials like a battle. During one challenge, she broke another contestant's project, then told the judges it was weak anyway. Tom frowned. That wasn't strength. That was pride. Raven noticed his mood and leaned closer. It's not easy to watch others try to win your heart, is it? Tom shook his head. I didn't ask for this. I didn't even know I had anything special. Rava placed a hand gently over his. But you do. Not just in your blood, in your choices. That's why the trials matter. That night, Tom couldn't sleep. He walked through the garden dome of the Sky Palace. Flowers opened at night, glowing softly. He felt peaceful, but questions filled his mind. Why him? Why were these alien women risking so much just to connect with him? Suddenly, a strange humming sound echoed from the trees. Tom turned and saw a wall, one he hadn't noticed before. It shimmered and then revealed something hidden inside. A large round table stood in the center of a glowing room. It wasn't built recently. It looked ancient. On it were carvings, lines, stars, and a map. At the center was a symbol, a human hand surrounded by fire and light. Tom reached out and touched it. The world around him faded, and he fell into a vision. He stood in space, not floating, but standing, as if space had shape. He saw worlds burning, cities falling. Then a human stepped forward. Not a warrior, not a king, just a simple man. He reached out his hand, and the fighting stopped. Aliens gathered around him, not in fear, but in peace. From him came a bright light, not power, but understanding. And then stars bloomed again. Tom gasped and pulled away. He was back in the garden dome. The table disappeared. Rava found him the next morning, sitting beside a glowing tree. You saw it, didn't you? She asked. Tom nodded slowly. I think so. I don't understand it fully. Rava sat beside him. Long ago, one of our dream speakers saw a future where the galaxy would lose its way, and only someone with the heart of many worlds could stop that fall. They described a human, a child of Earth, with empathy so deep, even time would pause to listen. Tom looked at his hands. And you think that's me? Rava smiled. Kindly. I don't just think. The stars say yes. The next day, the final trial of the round began. The test of compassion. Each remaining woman had to heal a dying tree. But they could not use tools, only their voice, their presence. And what they had learned. Mira stepped forward. She didn't touch the tree. She sat beside it and began to sing, a simple melody from her home. It was soft, full of sorrow and hope. The tree glowed gently. Kale sat with the tree and whispered words in her language. Then in English, she told stories about rebuilding broken machines and hearts. The tree flickered, unsure, but held firm. Zira walked up next. She said nothing, tried to force energy through her hands. The tree darkened. She grew angry and slammed her hand down, breaking a small root. Tom stood up. That's enough. Everyone turned. Tom walked into the center. This trial was about compassion. You broke something that was already dying. Zira narrowed her eyes. Strength is needed to guide life. Tom shook his head. Sometimes, life doesn't need strength. It needs care. The crowd was silent. Rava stepped forward. Zira, you are removed from the trials. Zira left in silence, her head high. But her pride cracked. That night, Mira and Kale sat with Tom near the sky fountain. He looked at them, his voice low. I didn't ask for this. But I'm starting to believe maybe there's a reason I'm here. Kale nodded. You don't have to decide today. Just don't close your heart. Mira smiled. Sometimes. The heart knows even before the mind does. Tom looked up at the stars, no longer afraid of them. Something had awakened inside him, not just destiny, but purpose. Days passed quietly after the trial of compassion. The arena remained full of light and celebration. But the number of women competing had grown smaller. Many had returned to their worlds with respect, but only 3 women remained. Mira, the gentle healer; Kale, the thoughtful inventor; Lyra, the silent diplomat from a cold moon world. Each of them had touched something inside Tom, something honest. He could no longer treat this as a strange event he had no control over. It had become personal now. Real. He was not just choosing a winner. He was choosing a future. Rava met him in the Sky Gardens that morning. She wore simple robes and brought a small fruit from her world. Today, she said, is not a day of trials. It is a day of truths. Tom looked at the trees swaying in the soft wind. Truths, yes, Rava replied. No more competitions. No more tests. You will speak. With each of them, not as a judge, not as a symbol, as yourself. Tom nodded slowly. He had questions, feelings, doubts, but he also felt something else growing inside him, peace. He met Lyra first. She sat beneath a crystal tree in the thought garden. Her long dark robe shimmered with light. She had always spoken the least, but her presence was strong. Her eyes held many years, maybe even centuries, of silent wisdom. I never understood you fully, Tom said gently. Lyra looked up. You were not meant to understand quickly. I listen more than I speak. That is how I keep peace in my home. Why did you join this trial? He asked. She looked at the stars above. Not for power. Not for honor. I lost someone once. Child I could not save. When I heard of you, the human with the heart of many worlds, I believed you might bring life where silence now lives. Tom didn't know what to say. Her words were heavy but honest. She did not cry. She did not beg, but he felt her pain like a quiet river running deep. Next, he met Kale. She was working inside her small lab dome, building something strange. A toy robot shaped like a fox. When she saw him, she quickly wiped her hands and smiled. I wasn't trying to impress you, she said. I was just making something fun. Tom laughed. That's exactly what impresses me. They sat together on the floor, surrounded by machines and wires. You don't treat me like a prophecy, Tom said. Kale nodded. That's because you're not. You're a person, a funny, kind, confused person who got pulled into something too big. You still joined the trial. I didn't plan to, she admitted. But then I saw you during the trial of memory. You looked so lost. I thought, maybe I could build something good with you, not just for you. Tom liked that. She didn't want to follow him. She wanted to walk beside him. Finally, he met Mira. She was inside the healing garden, sitting by a pool of clear water. Birds from her homeworld flew gently above. She didn't say anything at first, just smiled as he sat beside her. You always make me feel calm, Tom said. Mira tilted her head. That's because I see the storm you carry. I'm not strong. Like your people, I don't know how to guide worlds or fix the stars. You know how to listen. Mira said softly, you know how to protect without hurting. That is strength too. Tom looked into her eyes. There was no fear there, no pressure, just acceptance. Later that evening, Tom walked to the center of the Sky Palace. A platform had been raised, not for a fight, but for a decision. The stars above shone brighter than ever. Rava stood beside him. You do not have to choose if you are unsure, she said kindly. Tom took a breath. No, I'm ready. The 3 women stood below, waiting, not with hope, but with quiet respect. Tom looked at each of them. You are all strong, all brave, all kind. I didn't expect to feel so much. I didn't expect to care. He paused. The wind brushed his face. But I choose the one who saw me not as a symbol, but as a soul. I choose Mira. Mira stepped forward slowly. Her eyes were wide, shining, but calm. She placed her hand in his, and for a moment, everything was still. Kale gave a small nod. You better make a good future, she said with a grin. Lyra bowed respectfully. Peace be with you, Tom of Earth. That night, there was no loud celebration. No music, No cheers. Only a garden, a bench, and two people sitting under the stars. Tom looked at Mira. Are you sure about this? About everything? Mira smiled gently. Yes, because I don't choose you for the prophecy. I choose you. For the way you care, even when afraid. They didn't talk much after that. Just sat together, hand in hand, watching the stars move elsewhere in the galaxy. Word spread quickly. The human had made his choice. But more importantly, he had done it not with power or force, but with understanding. The alien queens called him the one who chose with heart. And far away, in places where were still whispered and hope had dimmed, people began to believe again that maybe, just maybe, humanity had come to the stars, not to conquer, but to heal. The next morning, the skies above the floating city of Velra were golden. Clouds drifted slowly around the towers, and soft music played in the distance. It was the day after Tom had made his choice. He had chosen Mira, the healer. But more than that, he had chosen to stay. Reva met him in the Star Garden. Her eyes were calm, but her voice held a new feeling, pride. You've done something no one expected, Tom. He looked up at the glowing leaves above. I only followed what I felt was right. She nodded. That is exactly why the galaxy needs you. The council gathered once more, not for a trial, but for a ceremony. Leaders from many alien houses stood together in peace. Some had once been enemies. Some had feared humans. But now, because of Tom, they had hope. On the wide sky platform, Tom stood beside Mira. She wore a white robe with silver threads, not royal, not formal, just simple and graceful. Her hand rested gently in his. A large crystal, shaped like a star, stood between them. It was a symbol of unity, not power. Reva spoke clearly. Today, we do not bind a man and a woman. We do not crown rulers. We witness the choice of two souls, one from Earth, one from afar, who walk together toward a future that belongs to all. Tom looked at Mira. She smiled. There were no oaths, no loud promises, only one sentence, spoken by both. I walk beside you. And with that, the galaxy took a deep breath. After the ceremony, Tom and Mira were given a small home at the edge of the Sky Gardens. It wasn't large, but it was peaceful, filled with light, green life, and the soft hum of distant stars. Tom began helping in the healing domes with Mira. He wasn't a doctor, but his presence had a strange calming effect. Plants grew faster near him. Injured children stopped crying when he held their hand. The alien scientists were amazed. They studied his cells, his energy, his brain patterns. He's not just human, one of them said. He's something more. Reva explained it best. Tom carries what our world forgot. Empathy without condition. One evening, as Mira was preparing tea made from sky leaves, Tom sat quietly and looked out the glass wall. Do you think we're really making a difference? He asked. Mira sat beside him. Yes. You brought unity through kindness, and soon our child will carry that forward. Tom looked down at her belly, a small glow now visible just under her palm. A new life had begun. It was not just a child. It was a bridge between Earth and the stars. Across the galaxy, other worlds took notice. Messages came from far systems, not about war, but about peace. Some asked for guidance, others offered help. A planet called Arena, once closed off, sent a gift, a tree that only bloomed in peace. It bloomed the moment it arrived. Even Earth finally responded. A quiet signal was sent to the edge of Velra. Is the human alive? Is he safe? Reva allowed Tom to answer. He sent a short message. I'm safe. I'm not alone. And I'm not coming back yet. There's more to do here. His words were gentle. There was no anger in them, just purpose. Meanwhile, Kale returned to her own world, where she started a new academy for science and emotion. She built machines that helped people talk across cultures. One of her students said she used to compete for a human. Now she builds to honor one. Lyra returned to her frozen world and opened a peace hall, where stories of Tom and Mira were read aloud to children. Lyra smiled more now, though only a little. As for Zira, no one heard from her again. But some say she watched us quietly from a far station, changed in ways no one expected. Months passed. Mira's belly grew, and so did the peace between star nations. One day, Reva came to visit. She looked at Tom and said, "Do you understand now why you were chosen?" Tom nodded slowly. "It wasn't because I'm strong. It's because I feel." Reva smiled. "And because you act on that feeling. That is rare." She looked at Mira. "The child will come soon. When she does, we must protect her. Many will see her as a symbol." Tom shook his head gently. "She's not a symbol. She's our daughter. She will be her own person." Mira agreed. "And we will raise her to choose with her heart, like her father did." The night before the birth, Tom stood alone on the star balcony. The sky above was full of movement, small ships, glowing trails, peaceful signals dancing across space. He thought of Earth, of his quiet home, the garden shop, the old path he used to take home. He missed it in a soft way, but he didn't feel lost anymore. He felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. Mira walked up behind him, holding his hand. "It's time," she whispered. Tom turned, ready. The stars were quiet that night. Inside the healing dome, the air was calm, and the glowing plants gave off a soft, warm light. Mira lay on a smooth, resting bed, her face glowing with strength and peace. Tom sat beside her, holding her hand. His heart was beating fast, but his eyes were steady. He had never seen a birth before. But this was not just a moment for them. This was a moment for many. He looked into Mira's eyes and whispered, "You're not alone. I'm here." She smiled through the pain. "I know. I feel you. Always." Reva and two other elder healers stood nearby. They didn't speak much. They only moved gently, like they had done this 100 times, but they knew this one was different. And then, after a soft cry and a wave of glowing light, she was born. A baby girl. Small, warm, and shining softly, like the stars outside. Tom held her in his arms. She looked up at him with wide silver eyes that changed color as she blinked. Blue, then green, then brown. She didn't cry much. She simply stared, calm and curious. Mira whispered, "Her name should be Naya. It means new beginning." Tom looked down at the tiny girl and nodded. "Naya, our Naya." News of Naya's birth spread across the galaxy faster than light. Not because she was a miracle, not because she was born of prophecy, but because she was the first child born of Earth and stars. The child of a human and an alien, a symbol of unity and a sign of hope. Leaders from different worlds sent messages of peace. Some sent songs, others sent poems. And one distant world sent a stone that only glowed in the presence of true harmony. As Naya grew, everyone noticed something special. When she touched plants, they healed faster. When someone near her felt anger or sadness, she would reach out quietly, and their emotions softened. Animals followed her. Even wild creatures calmed around her. But she was not powerful in the way most people thought. She was kind. She was thoughtful. And she asked questions. Many questions. Tom laughed one day as she climbed onto his lap and asked, "Why do people fight if they can just talk like we do?" Mira smiled from across the room. "She's already thinking like a peacemaker." On Naya's 5th birthday, a special meeting was held in Velera. Not just a party, but a gathering of minds, leaders, and builders from across the galaxy. They had all come to ask the same question. What kind of future should we build together? Tom stood in front of them, Naya beside him, holding his hand. He didn't speak like a king. He didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "If a man like me, just a gardener from a quiet town, can be part of this peace, then so can anyone. The stars don't belong to one race. They belong to all of us." He looked at Naya, who smiled at the crowd and added in her small voice, "Let's be kind first. Then everything else will come later." The crowd was silent for a moment. Then it rose, not in loud cheers, but in peaceful agreement. That day was later called the Day of Understanding. Years passed. Naya grew taller. Her eyes stayed bright and changing. Her voice became strong. People listened when she spoke, not because she commanded, but because she cared. Tom and Mira watched her with quiet pride. They never pushed her. They never told her what she must be. They only taught her to lead with the heart, and she did. She visited many planets. She learned their languages, their songs, their pain. She helped where she could, and when she couldn't help, she simply listened. That, too, brought healing. One day, as Tom sat in the garden, now older, with gray at his temples, Naya came and sat beside him. She was no longer a child, but her smile still had the same light. "Father," she asked softly, "do you think Earth will be ready now?" Tom looked up at the stars. He had not returned in all these years. "I don't know," he said, "but maybe it's time. We find out." Naya nodded. "I want to see where you came from." Tom smiled. "Then let's go together." As a family, a ship was prepared. Not for war, not for show. Just a quiet vessel, built by many hands, Earth, Velera, and beyond. When it landed near Tom's old home, the fields were still there. The trees were older, and the air still smelled like rain after sunset. The people came slowly, cautious. At first, but then they saw him and her, a human man, and a girl not fully human, but fully kind. Naya stepped forward and gave a small wave. "Hello," she said. "My name is Naya. I am your guest, and I hope we can be friends." And in that moment, humanity took its first real step toward the stars. Not through machines, not through war, but through the heart of a child born from two worlds.